Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So, update. That drive that my cat dragged down to the floor that broke last episode. Yeah, no, that's broken. That's completely broken and is not turning on and is not available to really access in it. I have no idea what happened to it. Fortunately, I am smart enough at this point, after multiple tragedies of this kind have afflicted my life, I'm smart enough to keep an online backup. I have everything backed up on an online service. So I have all the files that were on there, which is good because they are important, very important, really, genuinely, truly very important. So they're all backed up. I can still access them, but I don't have anywhere to put all it. It was it was a 12 terabyte drive that died. Is what happened. 12 terabytes. I hadn't filled it up yet, but it was well full, so I can't really download all of that and put it on any of my other drives because they're not big enough for that. So that's a problem. I've downloaded the most important files, and I've ordered some replacements. SATA drives, this time inside of my computer, so that if my cat wants to destroy that hard drive, they will have to destroy the whole goddamn computer to get to it, which I feel like maybe I've just jinxed myself by saying that. That would be fun. Anyway, Frieren, anime, lady with elf ears doing magic stuff in a magic school, ? Magic competition, tournament arc. Also, hello, you see that? That little scrolly scroll. The camera cannot parse it when I hold my hands out in front of myself. The down there bit that my model is having trouble pointing at. Some names. If you've been a member of the channel for more than a month, I'll put your name on the thing down there. I figured out how to do it. I wasn't keeping track of how many people were signed up as members on this channel at all, because YouTube doesn't really tell you. They just tell you, oh, you earn ever so slightly more money this month, which is like, hey, cool. But it doesn't tell you how many people there actually are until you go and check. And then when I checked, I found out, oh, it's kind of a lot at this point, and some of them have been there for like a while. So I figured maybe I should do a little something or other to sort of recognize that with this little doohickey down here that I'm struggling mightily to try and point towards. There. That'll do it. As you can see also, though, some of the writing is a little bit mangled and corrupted. The tool that YouTube has to export the names into like a file that I can turn into a text file, somewhere along the way when it does that, any unusual letter, anything with a diacritic, anything that's not like in sort of standard English or whatever gets mangled. It's somewhere along the way there's some kind of text corruption that happens. I have not sussed out where it is or how to fix it yet. I'll try, because I don't want the names to like show up and look fucked up and weird, but doing my best. Anyway, thank you very much to you, the people who are down there who are scrolling by. Extra Leo and Cody Rosa Connie and Javier H and Gustav, or Gustav, yeah, and Ziggy Vilsbe and Buzz103. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. You get early access to things, so yay. Try to do a thumbs up there. That's also something this model struggles a little bit to... You have no idea how much I have to stretch my thumb to do this. Ow! But hey, thumbs up. Anime. Anyway, if you haven't belonged to one of these watch-alongs before, I mean, at this point, you're clicking on episode 23. I don't know why I can't stop you. But if you haven't been here before, the way that it works for me is a little bit different than a lot of other reaction YouTubers, because I just basically outsource some of the work to you. Imagine you and I sitting on a couch next to each other. We're both watching the same episode of Frieren at the same time, but each on our own laptop. Every once in a while, me, being your annoying yappy friend, will say, hey, oh, I need to talk to you about this bit. 3, 2, 1, pause. And then we both pause at the same time. Then I do my yapping, and then we come back to it. Right? And when I'm ready to go back to it, I say 3, 2, 1, go. And in that way, we stay in sync while watching the same... Like, we could just watch it on the same screen, obviously, but we don't because of, I don't know, we're scared of being seen as gay. Maybe that's why. Like two dudes sitting on a couch, 5 feet apart, watching the same episode of anime on each their own laptop because they're not gay. Something like that. Who knows? Imagine a scenario for yourself in your head. Maybe it's one where we end up kissing. Who knows? I can't stop you. What was I saying? Right, anime, watch it. I think I have explained more or less how it works. Is it inconvenient and peculiar to me? Yes, it is. And if you don't want to deal with that, that's completely understandable, but it's how I do it because of it works for me, and this is how I am as a person. So, let's... Ooh, that's a I was about to say 3, 2, 1, start, but... That's some really nice cliff edge painting. Like, again, like with the sort of watercolor thing that they've got going on. Like, look at that, like, purple wash and blue over, like, to really sort of give the coolness of the shadows against, like, that orange yellow sun. And, like, look at those brush strokes that they use for, like, the sort of cliff face, like, with shadows are deeper. Oh, like, really sort of smearing it in there, like, taking advantage of the roughness of, I guess, a digital, but a brush nonetheless. That's really nice painting. That's just really nice painting. Anyway, let's start watching the episode. 3, 2, 1, go. Looking at the people spreading the rumors, yeah. Okay. Didn't get much information there. I said it before, but I really do like the offset drums thing on this intro theme. Yeah. Also, some really good guitar work, actually. Also, at the start of the chorus, like the little stop they do. Da, 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 da. And then, like, on the first go around, they have like that little halt in the music with just the voice going. That's really nice. Musical texture, you know? It's that Orson Welles thing, the screaming cockatoo to wake up the audience, but in music form. I like it. Oh, Dungeon Raid. Okay. Is that a homunculus? Oh. Yeah, I figured she was like a hair user. interesting musical choices in these scenes also, like that like the sounds like it's not a cello, it sounds like a folk stringed instrument, and then these plucked strings and like, yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about dungeons, shall we? 3, 2, 1, pause. So this is a thing that's interesting, right? Frieren as a series, like in many ways, sort of sidesteps a lot of the contemporary magic fantasy genre tropes, right? Like not entirely, it makes use of a bunch of them, but one that I find really interesting is just incorporating the concept of a dungeon, right? And a dungeon specifically as there is a structure of some kind or like an area of some kind in the world that just kind of exists, which is place where adventurer go to do the specific activity of dungeon delving, right? Like that there is this class of structure, this class of thing that just exists in the world, which is called a dungeon, right? Which has like, oh, there are certain principles of this, like as he just said, right? Like this is a dungeon of the so and so era, right? Like a dungeon of the unified dynasty. Dungeons of that era have multiple entrances, but they all lead to the deepest level, right? Like this idea that, like, okay, I guess apparently there was like architects back then who were just like, okay, we need to, so we're working for the unified empire. We need to build, we have like a quota, we need to do 9 dungeons this year, at least 1 desert dungeon, 1 forest dungeon, we need a lava dungeon also, that's been budgeted for, right? And over there, like the union rep, hey, yo, I work for the 87th local builders union, we don't do lava, that's part of the union contract, right? It's like, I'm just imagining like the infrastructure and like what social conditions would need to arise in order for an empire to invest however much it takes to build one of these things, and why, right? What is that for? Like, what? How do you sit down at a budget meeting and justify the expense for this shit, right? Because that's a video game ass mechanic, right? Like the idea of there is a dungeon is a video game ass mechanic, right? Like, and that's a lot of modern fantasy anime is steeped in the language of video games, right? Like very deeply buried in the language of video games and in conversation with it, right? Rather than like the way that we saw like post Lord of the Rings, for example. And I don't just mean the movies, I mean like post the book, like how so much of like Dungeons and Dragons, for example, is in conversation with things like Lord of the Rings and Narnia and like classics of like the Western fantasy genre. Interestingly, a lot of anime as a fantasy genre is in conversation with fantasy as defined and expressed in video games. And it leads to scenes like this, where the guy says something that is, when you think about it like through a historical lens, right? Imagine if Field talked about the fucking pyramids like that, right? Oh yes, these are dungeons of like the early ancient Egyptian era, right? Because that's just not really how megastructures like these are made in the real world. Like you think of something like Machu Picchu, you think of something like what's the name? I can't remember if it's Meso or South America, but like that indigenous culture that built a whole city on a lake. Like one of the most amazing construction projects of its era. You think of something like cathedrals, Notre Dame, like all of the astonishing architecture that was built in Rome, right? The Parthenon, things like these ancient, enormous mega buildings, hanging gardens, things like that. They weren't built like there was never anything of like, oh, we're building this specifically to be like this trap and treasure-laden repository for adventure, right? Like the idea of like, oh, they built these ancient, like it's a very Indiana Jones thing, right? This like, they built all these ancient structures with traps that would punish anyone who entered who wasn't supposed. Like that's not really, people didn't really do that. Like people didn't like it's not there's not a lot of like ancient megastructures that were built where you find, oh yeah, here's where the poison arrow trap goes, right? Here's where the boulder trap goes. Here's where the that's a video game ass thing, and it's a movie ass thing, right? That's not really something that's in conversation with reality. And it's interesting, like the ways that Frieren as a show navigates that, because in some ways it resists a lot of the tropes of modern anime fantasy, right? Like in some ways it sort of sidesteps them and gets around them, and then in other ways it adopts them. I've talked before about how like Frieren's party, Himmel, Heiter, Eisen, etc., they all kind of look like Dragon Quest heroes, right? Like that's sort of the visual aesthetic that they're grounded in, especially Eisen with his like Viking helmet and long beard. Like they're sort of like a Dragon Quest era RPG party of that kind, right? Whereas we talked about how Kana and the blue one who's angry at her all the time, that they sort of look more like a modern sort of PS2 anime RPG. I say modern, let's hope PS2 isn't a retro console. But like they look like something from a more modern era of RPG character design, right? Like, so there are these little things in the world of Frieren that are like in conversation with the same things that is. But then in some ways Frieren isn't, right? Like, because at the core of the story, at least the first parts of the story, is rather than adopting the video gamification of fantasy, right? Where so much of the narrative, so much of the world is structured around like building a society, building a structure of the world which is conducive to adventuring, right? A structure of the world which is primarily conducive to Bolkensha. Like adventurers go into the Adventurers Guild and getting quests and going out and clearing monsters and like going through dungeons, where the whole structure of the fantasy world is aligned to the goal of making sure adventurers can become S rank, right? The Frieren world, to a much greater extent, feels like, oh no, this is a world that people live in, right? Because that's part of the point of the story. Is Frieren lives for like 1,000 fucking years, and the world keeps changing around her because people live there, right? And it changes sometimes in very radical ways. That create this melancholy and ennui in her as the world becomes more and more unrecognizable to her, as she loses more and more of the people that she once cared about. It's much more about that internal emotional struggle for Frieren and much less about adventuring parties and shit like that. The beginning of the story was essentially positing, okay, the hero party has taken down the Demon King. What happens next? Like, what happens after they have taken down the Demon King and ushered in an era of peace? What do the people who did that do, right? What does Eisen do? What does Heiter do? What does Himmel do? Well, he dies. And what does Frieren do with herself, having completed the quest, right? Like, she has reached the end point of the story. What happens when the story goes on? Like, what happens when the story advances beyond the boundaries of the hero has slain the Demon King, the tale has come to an end, and they all lived happily ever after? Well, what happens after ever after, right? So it's interesting to me that, like, still, even though Frieren in so many ways is sort of trying to sidestep that particular part of modern anime fantasy, that it also still indulges, right? That here we have the adventurers coming to a dungeon, which is a specific kind of structure that exists in the world, because they've been building dungeons for thousands of years, and they are given a fucking Pokemon escape rope, right? Like, they're given the magic item in video games that will allow you to escape from the dungeon and go back to town in order to replenish your potions, right? And rest at the inn. They get the escape item that exists in video games. Like, it's interesting the ways that video game fantasy logic is creeping in more and more around the edges of Frieren. Especially during this arc, I feel like. Not that it was never there, but that it has come kind of to the forefront in a way that it wasn't before, right? Like, that's another thing about Frieren. I think back, like, a whole lot of the little vignettes and the little side bits in Frieren are just about the characters come to a place, and then it's like, oh, what are we going to do while we're here? Well, farm work, because that's most of what's necessary to do in a place. Like, there's so many scenes of the characters just hanging out, farming, dragging vegetables out of the ground, or helping people with chores around the place to earn their keep for a night's sleep and some food, right? that's very different from the video game thing, right? Like that's paying attention to the logistics and the necessities of actually living in a world versus existing in a video game world. Um, I'm not bringing it up as a criticism yet, but if the tone of Frieren starts twisting too much towards video game fantasy, I do feel like maybe it'll lose something along the way there. Because that's mostly because that's not what I'm here for, right? Like that's not what I got into. If I wanted that, I could watch literally any of a billion isekais, right? I came to Frieren for something else, so I hope the video game logic sort of stays a background element. It's just seeing the idea of like, oh yeah, the dungeon, there is the science of dungeoneering because we have so many dungeons that we've studied for so long that like someone who's a scholar will know something about dungeons, right? That their structures and valences and trends in dungeon construction in the same way that there is in architecture is just kind of funny to me. That was a long... Jesus Christ, we've been going for 20 minutes and we're not even 5 minutes into the episode. Let's actually watch some more of it. 3, 2, 1, go. I'm in a mood today, huh? Why are you acting like we're working together? Haha. Well, he's dead. Dumbass. And here we come back to that philosophy thing, right? The first test seems specifically engineered to make all these people distrust each other and adopt, like, that ambitious mindset that Siri wants. Well, you could at least work together with Denkin, right? And again, imagine if the first test had been one that specifically rewarded and valued teamwork and cooperation. Because now all of them have the experience of like, that guy tried to kill me 2 days ago, right? How the hell am I supposed to trust them with anything? Oh, that's a good background painting. Oh, they're gonna run into a mimic, right? And Frieren's gonna get munched on? Surely. Again, this thing of like, oh yeah, dungeons, they're just there. Oh, was he a fucking nerd about them? It does when you think in video game terms. Dungeons are an opportunity for leveling up. Finding treasures. Okay, yeah, very much the video game logic, right? No, every gamer knows that. Little bit. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. I cannot contain myself. That's the thing I was talking about, right? Like, that is fully, again, like, oh no, yeah, the dungeons here are easy, but as we travel, they get harder because we level up. So, of course, like, the difficulty curve has to scale. Oh, man. Himmel is a gamer. I should have known. I should have known he was a gamer. Of course he is. Again, I don't mind if this is just part of the background of the thing. Again, it also squares, especially with, like, if Frieren's party specifically are supposed to be evoking the idea, oh, this is the Dragon Quest party, now the quest is over, what happens to the elf who lives for 1,000 years when her companions die, right? It's fine if it's in the background. I just hope that there isn't going to be, like, a whole fucking ass season or whatever where they are all just dungeon crawling and doing dungeon things for dungeon reasons, and, like, leveling up, right? I don't want that here. It's fine in an isekai. In an isekai, it's fun. What I want here is Frieren being melancholic and sad, and, like, ruminations on life and death, and, like, what it means to survive people and what it means to carry on a memory. That's what I'm here for. So it's okay. It's fine. I'm not upset by it. Just please do not become the main thing, right? It's cool in Dungeon Meshi. Like, in Dungeon Meshi, like, I should get back to Dungeon Meshi as well, especially since we're fucking talking about dungeons so fucking much. Because Dungeon Meshi sort of does to the concept of video game dungeons what Frieren does to the concept of like, the hero's party defeating the Demon King, right? Like, he asks the question of, like, okay, what if we expand this out from just the narrow focus on the story itself to what's bigger than this? Like, what is the bigger picture around this? What is the bigger picture of which the hero's journey is a small part, right? In this case, Frieren's life. Dungeon Meshi does the same thing. It's like, okay, dungeons, if they exist and they're around, like, what does that mean? Like, what's the ecology of that? What is what does it mean for someone to have built a dungeon, right? What does that mean? And in the world of Dungeon Meshi, the creation and construction of the dungeon is a very important thing, right? What dungeons are is a very important thing, and they have, like, an ecology and a biology to them. They have, like a very specific place in the world and effects on, like, the culture and the politics of the world that they are in a way that in a lot of the video game logic sort of anime they don't. But yeah, just, I have, like, 4 trains of thought all competing for my attention right now. It's just one of those days. So let's just keep watching. 3, 2, 1, go. Of course that works. Just go with Denkin, for God's sake. Work together. That's what they're about to do, right? At least you two dipshits go babysit them. Come on. You know they'll need you. Foreshadowing is a literary device in which cut to Frieren in a mimic. Come on. Yep. You know, just hit it with something, like shoot a fireball at it. I want to count down to the comedic timing, but oh, they've got the A team animating this one, huh? And chomp. You know it's coming, but it's still funny. Oh, I love this animation. This is so good. Oh, 3, 2, 1. Pause. We have to go back. We have to go back. We need to hang on. Hold on. And like you can tell the moment they cut to it, right? That like, oh, this is different now. Like where, again, I don't know the production conditions of Frieren specifically. Like I can tell just from like the way things are put together. There's definitely an A team and a B team, right? Like there's definitely like the people who do all of the fucking like mind melting sakuga that makes me go feral and insane. And then there's the people who's like, okay, this is lower stakes. We don't need a whole bunch of incredibly fancy animation. Do standard style weekly TV animation, like, and they handle like other parts of the show where like less full animation is needed. I don't know exactly who worked on what for this particular episode. Certainly the background artists are on the fucking point as usual. But there's definitely like a shift in the animation, right? Like from the early bits of the episode to we go here, and immediately we get this fisheye lens effect, which, by the way, that's an impressive little bit of stuff to do, isn't it? Like, just on a thing like this, like, you get this fisheye lens effect on the treasure chest and even on the background itself as well. Someone had to paint that. That's like, and compositing that together so it looks good, that's not trivial. And it's an interesting effect because, like, immediately you see this fisheye lens effect and it's like, okay, this, like, you know, the moment you see it, because of the foreshadowing in the narrative, but also just like the way that this mimic is introduced on camera, right? The way that it's introduced, the way that you see it for the first time, you kind of go, yeah, I mean, obviously that's a mimic. Like, the way that it's shot, that slight uncanniness from the fisheye lens effect, the dramatic way with the lighting and all of that. Like, yeah, it's a mimic. Of course it's a mimic. It's obviously a mimic. What could it possibly be other than a mimic? So the show is like very... No. The audience knows. The audience knows exactly what this is. They know what's about to happen. They know exactly the joke we're setting up for. So the job is, how do we make it funny anyways, right? And it's all down to timing, right? It's all down to dragging out the setup as much as possible, right? Drag out the setup as much as possible, and then that's what my experience as a mage is telling me, and then cut. Just instant cut. Like, and then give it a bit of silence, and then it's dark and scary. Classic comic timing. It's just good. It's just good, man. Anyway, the thing I wanted to talk about. This. What a lovely little animation. Like, the hand comes down, touches, hovers for a moment, and then, like, look at the weight being placed, like, where you can see the tension building inside the hand as, like, the tendons in the fingers get activated. And then this, like, gentle caress, right? What a lovely bit of animation. And the fact that the mimic doesn't do anything yet, right? Like touching? No, no, no. Not enough. Not enough. We're like the mimic is just waiting. We just know it's waiting. And then notably, mimics don't seem to chew people. They just kind of like chomp and then they just sit there. So I don't know. It seems like that's only dangerous if you're alone. Oh, are they gonna find the other mage trapped in a mimic and dead? That would be funny. And like the little thing of like having Frieren talk with her butt, right? Like that we can't emote with her face or arms or anything, so the only thing we have to sort of like emphasize her dialogue is like moving her butt around like it's a head that's yelling. It's just funny. This bit right here is really good also. Again, shout outs to the lighting people who are really responsible for like look at the volume over Frieren's like calves and thighs here. No, steady on. I see you typing that comment. No. But like look at the volume of her thighs, like over like you see the connective is that a tendon? It's the thing that holds the thing at the back of your knee. And like the shaking and like the chest wobbling around. Like what a lovely animation. That's a really good little sort of kicking. Again, the madhouse thing of choosing like the most unusual possible angle to shoot this from, right? Like from the back of the chest, from its point of view, so we can see the other two sort of looking confused and annoyed that she fucking fell for it. And then like the legs kicking up like this. What an unusual angle to animate anything from. But joyously fun to look at. And then Fern, like, dragging her out. You see that stretch? Right? She pulls and then, yep, like, elastic. Squash and stretch. Lovely, lovely squash and stretch. Look at Frieren deforming. This is fully cartooning, right? Like, this is fully on some not quite Tom and Jerry shit, but like it's definitely more sort of in the vein of Looney Tunes, right? The approach to physicality here with Fern pulling and Frieren like extending and Fern kicking her legs and like that's fully on some Looney Tunes shit. And then there's this little shot here. Again, what a high effort shot for a shit post, right? For a joke. That not only are we animating Fern like dragging Frieren out of the chest, but we have like this single point of light, this gorgeously rendered background, some gorgeously rendered shadows as well, not to mention. And then the lighting artists, the poor lighting artists, having to figure out how to render the shadows of Fern pulling in a way that feels convincing, right? Oh, what a lovely bit of animation. That cheers me up immensely. Not just because the joke is funny, but again, just so much extra effort visually put into making the joke not just funny, but visually appealing as like it's just a little bit of filmmaking. I really appreciate that. Anyway, this is going to be a long, yappy one, clearly. 3, 2, 1, go. Ooh, gargoyles. Oh, that's cool animation. Oh, yeah, yeah, okay, they couldn't keep that up for the whole thing, I see. Okay. Ooh. Oh, yeah, here's the A-team doing their work. Oh. Oh, no. Oh, that's no bueno. You might wanna flask that. Less talky, more magicy. Oh, I bet it doesn't work. Yeah. What a way to go. We're still on that. Is it gonna start to try and digest her at some point? Like, chew her in half, maybe? That's a good visual joke. Oh, damn. Oh, the fucking Sakuga is escalating a bit. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. The Sakuga is escalating a bit. So, okay, so the initial animation on the gargoyles, right? Like, there's a couple of things going on. First of all, they are animated in a very particular way, right? Where we have these jerky, right? You can see, right, with what they do is essentially just kind of flip back to previous frames of animation like that in order to sort of emulate the right the wobbliness of it. The other thing that's going on is textures being layered and projected onto the figure of the gargoyle. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do that in production. I'm not really an expert on it, but I do know like there's a big difference between simply projecting a texture over some animation and then having the animation move relatively independent of the texture, right? Versus what they're doing here, which is you can see the animators are trying as the gargoyle's line art is moving. The animators are trying to animate the texture as though it was projected onto a 3D object, right? So when the gargoyle moves, right, like when some part of it rotates in space, then the bits of the texture that were mapped to that part of the gargoyle, like on a 3D model, they try to also make it move. Now, they can't do that perfectly, as you can kind of see here on the shoulder, right? that like it's not really photorealistic the way that a 3D texture on a model would be, but they do a good job of emulating it. Right, as the gargoyle turns his head here, the texture seems to move along with the bits of the gargoyle that the texture is attached to. And I just want to call that out because that's really hard. That's a difficult thing to do in animation, of like animating like it's one thing to hand paint the texture onto the character, right? Like that's one thing. That's one incredibly difficult fucking thing to do. It's another thing to, rather than painting the texture directly onto the character, to have, I guess it would be the compositors would at least partly be in charge of making that work. It's another thing entirely to try and animate an otherwise static texture in such a way that it looks like it's following the physical motion of a character as like they're rotating, as they're doing their thing. And then, like, besides the texture, right? Like, the texture sort of obscures a little bit of the line work here. I feel I would love to see a version of this without the texture on it, so we can just see the line work of this animation, because outside of the texture doing its thing, like, this is just like a really, really nice, like really, really nice work from the principal animator, and especially whatever lighting artist was working on this shot, to really bring a sense of three-dimensionality to that line work. Very, very appealing. And then you can see, like, the moment we're not doing that scary introduction shot anymore, we don't do that anymore. Like, that texture projection trick, all of that, that was one time. We're not going to do that for the whole fucking fight scene. Are you insane? Right? I do feel like maybe they should have done it for this shot in particular, because, like, you can see the level of detail is quashed for this shot here, right? Like, when we not zooming in on the gargoyles, it's like, oh, we're animating them a little bit simpler now. But then we get this shot here, where we're back to that very complex line art rendering. And here you can kind of feel like, okay, the textures are maybe missing a little bit from this shot. Like, clearly this is supposed to be as detailed as the introduction, but I don't know. And then it's just fucking Sakuga City over here. And, like, the animators maintaining that jerky gargoyle motion for the whole thing. I do like the gesture of, like, cocking their heads in order to fire their mouth lasers. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know that I have a lot to say about this fight beyond just that's some good fucking Sakuga. Oh, look at that. Look at the way they make the smoke swirl, or the dust, how it swirls and rotates like a cyclone around, like, the eye of the storm that is the laser beam itself. What a nice detail of, like, imparting that rotational motion to the dust. That's really cool. Here's another little tour de force of, like, doing 3D motion. Also, again, like, a very complex rotational shot of the gargoyle, like, twirling in the wind and then getting obliterated. That's really good. Like, managing the wings of the creature in that way, ragdolling it in 2D animation while performing a motion of, like, the camera, of, like, the gargoyle being far away from camera, coming very heavily towards camera, and then getting, like, essentially kind of knocked out of the shot for a second. That's really cool. That's really cool. That was just some good fucking Sakuga. is what that was. Damn. Okay, let's watch the rest of the episode. 3, 2, 1, go. There might be a grimoire. Yeah. It does look like nice stuff. What? Because she found him in a dungeon. Like, what the hell? It's treasure. No passion or determination? Frieren is nothing but passion and determination, man. No, you haven't, girl. Like, come on. That was lovely. Who's replacing those candles? Like, wax candles burn down, and they were clearly melty. Like, it's not like they were eternal candles that never burn out. They were melting. They were melting. So, I'm sure it's just a spell or magic. Oh. I guess these guys are the first ones to run into whatever that is. Guess who? Guess who? Oh, I'm wrong. Here was me thinking it was going to be Übel. I guess they've run into their counterparts as well. Okay, so that's the gimmick, right? It's like defeat yourself kind of vibe. Whoa! Ooh! Oh shit! Oh, some fucking fight choreo. Interesting that it has an expression. Like, it did a little reaction on the face. Yeah, not much reason to be jazzed about that. Is there not? What if one of them knows a spell to cast illusions on itself so that it looks identical to... What if one of them is Glasses Guy, who knows how to do that? What if? What if? Oh, it's Frieren. Oh, you're fucked. All right then. We get to see Frieren as a raid boss. Well, that's fun. For us, not so much for them. Raid boss Frieren. Now that is a good hook for the next episode, I will say. That's like, oh shit, no, yeah, absolutely, I'm on board with that. Then the fucking fight choreo. The fucking fight choreo with the clone of her. Like, what a nice little opportunity to show off a little bit more of her powers, right? Like a little bit more of what she can do when she's actually fighting, because she hasn't had a lot of chances yet. Like an animator who's having a bunch of fun, like whipping and like really playing with like the elasticity of that. Like the way they shatter like the thread, right? Upon contact, so you can like see that like visually it gets disturbed and disrupted. It's not just that it bounces off, it gets like the kind of static. And then we get some fucking well choreographed spear fighting. Like fully some wuxia martial arts joy. Like the little push in there to sort of emphasize the kick move to... Lovely use of motion smearing as well. And then... Interesting, they presage, like she's about to do the push, right? Like the stab forward push. They actually presage it, like before she does it, there's that wind thing. I don't think that's because it's magic or anything. I think that's just because they want to like set it up so that she can do the whoosh and then like it lands as a motion. I really like this landing too. Because they do the elasticity thing in timing, right? She doesn't fly backwards at a constant rate. Right? We start here in this like slow... We speed ramp the whole thing. We start here in slow motion when she's like just been thrown up into the air. Then there's a moment of like normal speed as she like sort of flips over in the air. And then it's like, oh, gravity just kind of stops working for just a second. Because it's building up tension, right? Like it's building up like, okay, she's here now. Then we're building up tension, tension, tension. Snap, right? And then she snaps to the ground. She doesn't land like a person would land after being thrown, right? Like gravity doesn't work like it would on an actual object. It works in these motion, like these moments of like slow motion speed, slow motion speed, slow motion speed, right? So slow motion, speed, slow motion, speed. And it's very appealing. I do note that like there's an expression on her, right? Like she looks down, then she looks up and notices, and then she gets, owned. Again, with the animators just deciding to show off by doing a 3D rendering like in 2D, but like rendering the thing as though it's like a camera move that's tracking. And the thing is, you could just kind of paint a static background and foreground and just kind of track the camera across that. You kind of didn't need to fully draw the thing, but they want to do that because they want to motion blur the pillars and like tilt the camera into it a little bit, and because they want that 3D rotational effect of the pillars going by. So that's just like another one of those, like, let's just be really extra about doing this because we can. That's lovely. And then raid boss Frieren. I mean, if that thing is actually as strong as Frieren, it's like, are we losing someone next episode, or are they just all going to shatter their bottles? I would maybe shatter your bottle now, actually. Quite frankly. It raises the question of, does the test proctor, what was her name? Hair lady. Big hair lady. Does big hair lady know that this is what's waiting at the bottom of the dungeon? Because, like, she had this thing of, like, oh, I'm a pacifist, I don't want to fight, right? Like, I don't want to call it, like, fight. But, like, if these are, like, the challenges awaiting, if she's the one who cast that spell, which I don't think she probably isn't, I think it's probably a dungeon thing that does that, that would be an odd thing for her to sort of like, oh yeah, I'm going to take them into a dungeon that is absolutely 100% for sure going to force them to fight. But it could also be that we're doing the sort of clever thing of like, well, no, actually, this dungeon thing was a reflecting crystal or a mirror or whatever, and it only reflected what is in your hearts, right? So you came in here with violence in your hearts, and then that was what it gave back. And then Frieren's going to come here, and it's going to be like, oh, a copy of me. Hey, do you want to read this obscure grimoire about like a really weird spell that I found and like nerd out about it? Like, it's like, shall we do some parallel play? Shall we enjoy our special interest together? And then it's just like, oh yeah, cool. And then they just sit, hang out. Or the funniest possible thing they could do, bring a mimic into the room and just leave it there. just walk in, put a mimic on the floor and leave. It'll take care of itself. It would be very, very funny if that's how they do it. Oh, please be how they do it. I want that. I want that alternate cut of whatever the next episode is going to be, where that's how they solve the Frieren raid boss. Is just put a mimic on the floor, walk away. Interesting that the pacifist, though, would choose to send them down into the murder clone of yourself attacks you mercilessly with all of your own abilities dungeon. Speaking of which, what happened to that first guy? Like, how dead is he? Is he really very, very dead? Or did he bottle his way out? I hope he bottled his way out, poor guy, but walking in alone, bad idea. And again, I cannot help but notice that it seems like the whole entire purpose of the first test was to ensure that the people who make it through are the people who have that competitive, bloody mindset of, like, I'll use my magic to get the thing I need, like, steal the bird, kill the other guys, eliminate competition, right? It seemed set up to reward that, and then the second test is like, yeah, no shit, they're not working together. Like, it seems like a test that was explicitly designed to prevent the test takers from ever developing the instinct for collaboration and peaceful behavior. Right? Like, it seemed like a test that's specifically designed to beat that out of them as much as possible to ensure, like, again, that thing Saren said about, like, the ambition, right? That Frieren doesn't really have that burning ambition to get more powerful, but Seri wants those people specifically. So she has these tests that seem specifically designed to weed them out, right? Which I'm curious about. Anyway, I'm fucking excited for the next episode now. Raid Boss Frieren. That's gonna be a banger and a half. So I'll record that now, I think. Well, not now, as in this video, but in the next video. And if you want to see the next video early, membership, like the... Hey, I can point downwards now. Membership, like these people down here, under my spaghetti fingers. $1 a month if you want to. You don't have to, though. It's completely fine if you don't, in fact. I have a Patreon, merchandise store, blah, blah, etc. YouTube engagement, comment, subscribe, like, and all of that. Goodbye.